Guernsey's relationship with cannabis is complicated. While the CBD and THC industry was heralded to be a major economic enabler for the island, legal red tape has ended up strangling it at birth. Major industry bodies have moved off island, taking their business with them. Meanwhile, the island's budding medicinal cannabis market continues to morph into a multi-million-pound enterprise. With concerns about diverted prescriptions continually being raised, and an island now flooded with cannabis, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly what is going on. Deputy Marc Leadbeater is a member of HSC and figurehead in the cannabis industry. He sat down with me to clear up the myths around cannabis and share his positive thoughts for the future. So I thought the first question to ask is kind of your involvement in the industry. How have you been involved in cannabis? Why has your interest been in that particular realm of a topic of conversation?
Well, I mean, cannabis kind of found me really. I was approached by a group looking to, because basically Guernsey sent some signals out. We changed our legislation to allow people to come here and set up businesses to cultivate cannabis.
Yeah.
So there's various different companies eyeing up Guernsey as a good jurisdiction perched on the edge of Europe to be able to set their businesses up. I've spoken to many people. I can't put a number on the amount of companies that I've spoken to over the last few years that were interested in setting up and cultivating cannabis, etc. in Guernsey. One company, one organisation, a group of individuals in particular, want to come on board. We shared the same kind of vision for how it could work.
Is this the House of Green?
This is the House of Green, which is now the House of Green. It was just a group of people
at
the start, and now it then went on to become the House of Green.
Yeah.
But I mean, that business, the House of Green, is moving off island. They've not been a licensed entity for a couple of years now because of the issues involved in moving product off of Guernsey.
Yeah.
Guernsey kind of stole a march on everybody else in the British Isles, to be honest. When we came out, we've got people like Tina Boulding from Celebrated Limited. She's what I would say is the pioneer for cannabis in Guernsey. I mean, without Tina and the work that she's done, I don't think we'll be in the position that we are now. But we signed an MOU. Guernsey had to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Home Office in the UK to be able to issue licences to grow medicinal cannabis, which is a high strength THC, which hasn't been grown in Guernsey because our previous regime was CBD only, which is low THC. So the MOU was designed and was drawn up in collaboration with Guernsey authorities, health and social care, with not me being involved because I was a director of a licensed cannabis company at the time. So I was conflicted with that, and so it was the rest of my colleagues in HSC, P&R and Home Affairs, and they established this MOU. Now, the only one problem I can see, really, the biggest drawback of the MOU is it was supposed to provide us with a route to market for CBD products from Guernsey. Because it's always been an issue getting licenses to move products around off the island. Unfortunately, that didn't materialise, and the MOU kind of made it more difficult for us in many respects, which meant that CBD cultivation in Guernsey was no longer viable. So we've gone from probably 12, 14 licence holders across the Bailiwick growing CBD to none.
Because it did look like we were racing forward at one point. It all seemed incredibly positive.
It did, but the MOU brought it did enable us to be able to issue CDPM licences. But it didn't enable us to. It didn't enable the current CBD industry to flourish. It kind of put paid. There was because initially in Guernsey we had all these licensees quite happily growing CBD. There was an accepted minimum standard for security. That was an 8-foot chain link fence. That came about by meetings with the then the law enforcement representative. I'm trying to think of his title. It was the crime reduction officer. At the time, with planning, and with Ed Freestone, who was the chief pharmacist. So that was the level of security, and that message was sent out to the industry. Your 8-foot fence with your cameras and your motion sensors, etc. So, but when the MOU was signed and the Home Office came along, the Home Office had to sign off on the licences, and the Home Office said, no, an 8-foot chain link fence is unacceptable.
You need more.
So all of the security levels that we've been working to in Guernsey were completely. You tore up the book.
Yeah.
So I had to start again. So the difference is in Guernsey, we kind of differentiated between low strength CBD and high strength, high THC cannabis.
Yes.
There's two levels. One is that there's a different level of risk posed by each.
Yeah.
The difference is with the UK is they don't differentiate.
No, okay.
CBD exactly the same as THC, which made it completely unviable for anybody to continue growing CBD in Guernsey. So unfortunately, we're in the situation where we are now, where our potential lucrative CBD market is falling away.
Did people see that situation coming? Because surely the...
No. I mean, the thing is that it's been a challenge. Everywhere in an industry like this, especially when something that's quite controversial like cannabis, it's like wading through treacle trying to get things done, and there's obstacles whichever way you turn. But, everything has been... we've been able to circumnavigate all these problems, we've been able to get over the hurdles that were placed. And when I say we, it's the collective we, it's the industry. I'm not saying we, it's the Council of Green, it's the industry. But the signing of the MOU, we were told, everybody was told, every licence holder was told by the authorities that yes, this will give you the ability to be able to move your products.
And you'll be fine as you are.
But that didn't happen.
Why did the MOU have to be done?
Because Guernsey is not a signatory to the international conventions like the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotics, but the UK is. So for us to be able to trade internationally in these areas, we have to either be a signatory to that convention or have that convention extended to us by someone who is. We're too small to be a signatory, not Guernsey.
Right, okay.
So we had that extended to us via the MOU with the Home Office in the UK. Right,
okay. And that was, I suppose, it sounds like it was then the death knell for both arms of that industry then.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's 3 licenses been issued for medicinal cannabis. One for celebrated domestic that I mentioned before, and another couple of others.
And is this to produce?
This is to produce, yeah. This is they've got completely different business models. Each one of them, but they're all looking to produce high strength medicinal cannabis and eventually take that to market. But there's a process you need to go through because we've got the MOU with the Home Office. Guernsey will also need an MOU with the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Regulations Authority, to be able to because once you've been issued your licence from the Guernsey authorities, you have to begin the process of MHRA approval. Now that can be a 2-3 year process. But without that approval, you cannot take a pharmaceutical product to market. And these are classed as pharmaceutical products. So it's very, very high level of compliance that you need with many, many different standards.
So it sounds like there's a lot of red tape. I mean, is this still going to be the case for a while?
I think so. I think it's slowly moving in the right direction. I think the licensees that we've got will certainly, some of them will be very successful. Eventually, it will take time. And it takes time and there's no return. There's a hell of a lot of investment that's got to go in before you start to see any return. This is why it's a very high risk in that respect.
Because it sounds like, I mean, I won't go into too many of the stories, but it sounds like some people got their fingers burnt. It means some people have had to leave the island, all that kind of stuff for businesses that we've talked about moving off. Is there anything that Guernsey could have done differently to have done this better?
I think bringing the industry along with the authorities would have helped, because the MOU was put together, was developed in association with Guernsey authorities and the UK authorities, but completely absent of any input from the industry at all. Now, it was unfortunate because there was many companies in Guernsey with experts in the field from the United States, from Canada, etc., etc. They'd been there right at the start when they developed their regimes, and they could have had some valuable free input to be able to make this more business friendly. But unfortunately that didn't happen, because if the industry had seen sight of the draft MOU, they could have raised the concerns and said, oh, hang on a minute, this is going to...
So who fed into the MOU in the first place as far as advice goes on it? Because someone would need to.
Nobody from industry whatsoever in Guernsey. No.
So where was the expertise? Is there no expertise involved?
There was no expertise at all. It was internal government, civil servants dealing with UK civil servants. So that's where, I mean... From
two very historically quite conservative jurisdictions, I suppose.
Very conservative jurisdictions. restrictions. I mean, certainly in the UK. Well, the problem we've got, I think, in the UK at the moment is we've got a Conservative government, and their kind of their thoughts and their position on cannabis doesn't align with what we're trying to do in Guernsey.
Yeah.
So this is where the problems lie. We've been told, I mean, clearly we looked at last July, there was a resolution in the States to look to scope out the changing the legal status of cannabis to open up to what people say could call a recreational issue. You might call it adult use, but people call it recreation. Tennis is recreation to me, not cannabis, but anyway, people call it recreational cannabis. Now the problem we've got is that we've had pushback from the Home Office in the UK because of our plans in this area.
Yeah.
And we're always going to have that while we've got a Conservative government in the UK.
Because, and clearly from the PNR's recent reshuffling of the government work plan, that what you're talking about there, that cannabis looking at the legalisation or the possible routes to how it is deemed in the island, that's been kind of cut out.
Yeah, well, they've recommended. I mean, PNR's officers of external relations have been the group that's been dealing with the Home Office in the UK. That's their job. Yeah. So we've had information that's coming back to us, and it's been put in the too difficult to do tray. Yeah. And I can understand why it is at the moment, and it's health and social care. Because when the news first broke that PNR wanted to push the cannabis scoping into pipeline, which means into next term. Yeah. We haven't discussed it as a committee. We're getting a few people from the media asking us our individual positions. Yeah. And it's disappointing to read this in the news that this was happening without the committee being fully appraised and without the committee discussing it. The committee has discussed it, and we have come to an understanding now that you talked about our current medicinal cannabis regime before. Yeah. We're aware that there's some changes that need to be made to that regime. So what we decided to do as a committee for the remainder of this term is we'll agree, yes, okay, there's the scoping of the legal status of cannabis we'll put into the pipeline. Yeah. And what we'll do now is we'll concentrate on what we've got in Guernsey and try and tidy up and make it far more effective and far more equitable.
Because the situation in Guernsey at the moment seems quite messy.
Well, I mean, we've got 1,600 cannabis patients in Guernsey that are legally accessing medicinal cannabis via either one of the online clinics or one of the UK clinics. Now, that amount doesn't surprise me. No. I mean, we know, surveys tell us that there are thousands of people across the Bailiwick Guernsey that use cannabis illegally regularly. Yeah. So many of these people, sensible people, will want to be able to legalise that use.
Go down the legal route for it.
Exactly. They don't want to bang on their door and the police turning up and then to get prosecuted for that if they can do something legally. Yeah. So I can understand that people that are, that want to go down the medicinal cannabis route, and I think that the 1,500, 1,600 patients that we got are going to continue to climb and climb.
Do you think that it seems like it should just be legalised as something that we can use?
Yeah, of course I do. It's become silly.
Because this situation is silly.
It is silly. I mean, you go to the doctor every 3-4 months, whatever, with a consultation. You pay between 45 and 145, I think, in various that they've told the different tariffs are. And you pay for your medication and you pay for a month's worth of prescription. This amounts to hundreds of pounds every month for people to have to find. Now, this it kind of encourages diversion. Yeah. Because there's become the haves and the have-nots. Yeah. It's the have prescriptions and the have-not prescriptions. Yes. So there are many people out there, and I do not condone this. In the slightest, I do not condone by diversion of any medication. But there are many people out there, I believe, can't afford their prescriptions. So they're selling part of it to fund.
It would be naive to say that isn't happening.
I'm convinced that's happening.
I've heard second-hand reports of that all the time. I mean, that clearly is a building situation in the island.
But the one thing I think we need to put into context is the diversion of prescription medication has been a massive problem in Guernsey for many years, and it's taken many people's lives. Yeah. Very, very strong, addictive, lethal medication has been diverted. I can think of half a dozen people in an instant that have lost their lives due to diverted prescription medication. Not cannabis. No. Because cannabis is not lethal. There's no such thing as a lethal dose of cannabis. No. But
so we're getting diverted drugs.
We're getting diverted drugs. But diverted drugs have been a problem in Guernsey for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And now we've got a less harmful but more sought after drug, like cannabis, which is being diverted. If we had an adult use regime, as you would see in California or Canada, and as you will see in Germany very, very soon in the Czech Republic, there will be no need for diversion. And if you look at the statistics that are coming out of Canada, because Canada introduced their regime in October 2018, and if you look at Canada's National Cannabis Survey each year, it shows you the statistics. It shows you that the young people there was something like 19-20% of youngsters between 15 and 17 that used to use cannabis pre-legalisation in Canada. Yeah. That's dropped to 10%. You know, the statistics don't lie. The amount of youth interaction with law enforcement in Canada is dropped. Yeah. It's, I mean, I can anecdotally, you see it locally. I mean, somebody came to me only recently, a lady talking about her son. Her son was always in trouble. She was either always picking him up from the police station or from A&E at the weekend. He was out boozing all the time. And, he found medicinal cannabis. He doesn't smoke alcohol, doesn't drink alcohol anymore, doesn't smoke tobacco anymore, and he's running his own business quite successfully. So there are a lot of people that are getting social and many other benefits, medicinal benefits from the introduction of our regime. But you're right, it needs sorting out. From my mind, I know there's people that I've spoken to. There's a guy that's recently retired that lives down the road from me. He's been in a physical job all his life. Yeah. He's got aches and pains all over the place. And he used to use cannabis years ago, back in the 60s. Yeah. And he knows that cannabis would help him, but he can't afford it on his pension because he cannot afford up front each month a few £100. It just can't be done, which it's not equitable. So there's a lot of people that are playing the system by diverting their medication just so that they can afford theirs. But there's other people that would really benefit from cannabis that can't afford to access it. So we need to try and square that circle. HSC are going to attempt to try and make some changes. Yeah. You also mentioned before about Guernsey not making any money out of it.
Well, this is it. Part of it clearly is that going down this route, would it not be better if this could be a taxable something that we could...
Of course it is, yeah. I mean, this is something that we look at because at the moment there are medicinal cannabis companies that are operating in Guernsey that are making an absolute fortune. Yeah. Guernsey taps into that to the tune of 20% when it comes to tax. Yeah. Corporation tax, but cannabis companies are top rate 20% tax. I'm not going to comment on who's making what in various different businesses. That's not for me to say. But I do think there's a revenue stream there that Guernsey could tap into. I do think that we could change it. I think we need to collect more data. I told you before, because I was conflicted, I was not allowed to have any involvement in the development.
Yeah, of course.
But I did say to a senior civil servant, off the record, right at the time, look, I know that I'm not allowed to have any involvement, but if I was doing this, I would have all of the cannabis medication dispensed from hospital pharmacy. Yeah. That way, because that's where the money is. The money's in the dispensing of the product, not in the consultation, not in anything else, it's the dispensing of the product. So Guernsey could have tapped into that revenue stream. And not also will we tap into that revenue stream, we have sight of who's picking how much medication up every time. We know, we collect the data. Yeah. We see these people. We know that so-and-so is getting X amount. And we've got that data, and as a government, we need to have that data. Yeah. So I think we're really missing a trick there. And that's something that, now that the business I'm involved in is no longer cultivating cannabis in Guernsey, has no plans to cultivate cannabis in Guernsey, I'm no longer conflicted. So I'm allowed to have input into cannabis-related matters on HSC. And I would love to see the businesses that are operating in Guernsey, the various different licence holders,
come back.
I'd love to see them come back. Yeah. And I think one day they will. I think the vast majority of them will operate again in the cannabis sphere. Yeah. I think it's a few years down the line. Just yet, we need things to change in the UK for us to be able to... well, to put it this way, we don't really know what's happening with the UK government from one minute to the next.
No, I mean, it's a bit of a mess at the moment.
After the we could have a coalition with the Lib Dems and Labour, for example, which would completely change the outlook. The landscape will be completely different tomorrow to it is today. I mean, and that's when the legal status of cannabis piece of work can be picked up again.
Well, I suppose then, but we still have to rely on our own government becoming, I suppose, more liberalised in that
Yeah.
way.
Well, if you look at the numbers from the debate last term,
Yeah.
Last year, I think there was quite a majority.
Yeah.
And there was 5 or 6 absent, and out of those 5 or 6 that are absent, there was 2 or 3 of those that definitely would have supported us as well. So the numbers are there.
Yeah. Okay.
The numbers are definitely there because we've got on one side of the house, you've got the left and the right. We've got the left is pretty much supportive of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But then again, on the right hand side, you've got a lot of business people.
Yeah.
That understand the price of things, and they can see other jurisdictions making a pretty penny out of this and want Guernsey to do the same.
Yeah.
I think we're coming to a bit of a consensus now that this should no longer be the elephant in the room. This should be something that should be addressed properly. Government needs to take this seriously. We've got millions and millions and millions of pounds being spent annually on medicinal and illegal cannabis. So
we're not getting a piece of that pie.
We need to regulate and we need to tax it.
I mean, is the eventual aim, I suppose, would be preferable is full legalisation in the same way that alcohol is regulated and looked after. Yeah. But how far away do you really think that is?
Well, if you look at just across the pond, just across to Europe, and you see what's happening in Germany, in the Czech Republic, Switzerland, things are changing this year. Germany were about to introduce and roll out their adult use regime. They've come into a few problems with the European Union.
Yeah.
They're ironing out through the details about how it's going to be rolled out. It seems to be, in Europe, the way that it's going initially is cannabis clubs.
Yeah, okay.
Nobody, in the modern day, nobody wants to see in Amsterdam. No one wants to see people sitting outside coffees in the middle of town getting stoned. You know, nobody wants that.
No.
I don't think.
And that will always be the easy pickings argument for any kind of debate.
But I mean, Europe's changing.
Yeah.
Amsterdam's changing. That doesn't happen in Holland anymore.
No.
And it's certainly not going to happen in Germany and in the Czech Republic and other places as they roll out their regimes. It's a modern day approach to cannabis. Cannabis clubs are becoming popular because they're private members clubs. Everybody is a member. You know who's in there. I think I can see cannabis clubs being established in Guernsey. Medicinal cannabis clubs can be established in Guernsey now. And I know that somebody is looking at this point. So it wouldn't surprise me if this time next year that we have our first medicinal cannabis club, and that will just be for prescription holders to go and use their own prescription in a safe environment. So I can see that Europe is changing the cannabis landscape. I think, and it's becoming more acceptable across the world. I mean, look at Thailand, for example. Thailand's a kind of jurisdiction where you could spend your life in prison or worse for being caught with drugs. And they still take a very, very hard line on drugs. Yeah. But they've decided that cannabis isn't one of those.
You can grow at home now. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. I've seen media reports and stuff like that, and read bits and pieces. I've not been to Thailand for many, many years, so I don't know. Yeah. It just seems odd that you would,
That's the one That's the one drug that you would allow through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can understand why, because I don't class cannabis as a drug like a cocaine or a heroin or a lot of the horrible, nasty prescription drugs that are floating around in the black market. I don't class cannabis the same. So I think it should be treated, as you said before, in the same vein as we treat alcohol.
And even in the same vein as alcohol, I don't think cannabis is. We cover court stories constantly. We are always in court, seeing perpetually incidents happen in town over the weekend, all down due to alcohol. Yeah. And there's the big hypocrisy there about, how can you let alcohol be regulated in that way and something else that seems to benefit people a hell of a lot more still be completely illegal?
It's mad. I think that we will look back in 10, 15, whatever, ever many years' time, we will look back and say, how bizarre was that? How did we do that? I mean, there was people complaining that they couldn't take their medicinal cannabis script into the Guernsey Together Festival. And I know from our business we were going to have a stand there, but we weren't even allowed to sell over-the-counter CBD products. Yeah. But
so there is still these myths in place. There is still a negative, a taboo about it.
There is still a stigma there amongst a certain section of society, and that's going to take some time to change. But the point we're trying to make about the Guernsey Together Festival is you could walk in there 18 years old, go and buy as many shots as you want and get absolutely bladdered. Yeah. And
start to fall off a cliff.
When you're in that sort of condition. Yeah. It's completely balmy. And as you say, I mean, you can pick up the newspaper and have a look. I mean, it was my son's birthday, and we went along to Otto back in April, and he wanted to walk into town afterwards. I'm always a little bit concerned that late at night, because you know, you've got son, it's like when you've just got yourself to look after, it's not that difficult. But when you get somebody else you're responsible for. Anyway, he likes listening to the noise and hustle and bustle, and we walked through town. And we sat waiting for our taxi outside the information centre in the earshot of our new panel. Yeah. And we could hear all the hijinks and stuff like that. And it was fine, you know, he was had a bit of a chuckle and stuff, and we got our taxi and went home. And I looked at the newspaper the following week. About half an hour after we left, there was a massive fight outside the brand new panel. Yeah. Of drunken people. Yeah. You know, and
it is the nexus of a hell of a lot of problems that come through the courts.
And if I was to introduce, if it was up to me to introduce an adult use cannabis regime, I would like to see the entry level at 21 years old. Yeah. Not at 18 years old. I mean, I can see that there's regimes working pretty well. If you look at Canada, for example, each different province has got different nuanced sets of rules. Right. Okay. Some they allow access at 18, some 19, some 21. The reason I say 21 is the human brain doesn't stop developing until you're in your early 20s. Yeah. Okay. So I would like to see alcohol, cannabis, any sort of substance going into young people before their brains are properly matured and developed. I think that's wrong, and I think that could be very damaging. You're never going to roll that back and say alcohol should be accessible only at 21 years in Guernsey. Well, if that is achievable, that's achievable in the distant future. Yeah. Not now, because it's people think it's your right. You get to 18, you can go to the pub and have a pint. Yeah. You know, you can go to the pub and have 12 pints if you want.
And 8 shots of tequila if you want.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I think it is, if you actually break it down and you look at it stigma aside, it's complete nonsense.
And so I'll kind of bring it to a close by saying I thought, you know, recently the press about the House of Green leaving the island and moving on, and the situation not being particularly good in Guernsey, kind of coloured the whole thing in a kind of negative light. But actually, you sound kind of positive for the future.
Yeah, I mean, the things that are really happening in Europe, and Germany is the de facto Europe. So what Germany does, the rest of Europe follows suit. And because Germany is so advanced in their with their legislation surrounding cannabis, I think it's a very good sign for any business that's operating in the sphere. I mean, we're moving to Germany and to Poland. Our office is going to be in Berlin, and the lab's going to be just across the border in Poland. But that's looking at. I mean, the company is still going to be headquartered in Guernsey. Yeah. Our office is still going to be here, and we've got some very successful retail outlets.
Bailiwick Botanicals as well,
in Guernsey and in Jersey, and we've got another new store opening up in Jersey. So yeah, I mean, we're really positive about the success of our stores and about the potential success of our new joint venture with Proto Global in Germany and Poland. It's exciting times. It really is exciting time. But like I said before, everything in the cannabis world is like wading through treacle. Yeah. It takes ages, and you've got to be determined, and you've got to keep on and have a good team around you, which we have. And yeah, I'm not. It's a shame that the way that we could have had, you know, we got 200 acres of derelict glass across the island. Yeah. 199 something like that. It's around about 200 acres of derelict glass. A lot of that, say 50 acres of that, could have been put back to commercial use easily.
Could have been the grow. Well, it was heralded as the kind of growing industry returning.
Yeah, this is what we all wanted. Yeah. This is what we all thought. But unfortunately, there's this one little piece in our legislation, in Guernsey's legislation, which is different to Jersey's legislation, and it's different to the Isle of Man's legislation. Yeah. It means that every time we want to move a bit anything CBD related off of the island, you need an export license. And for an export license, you need a corresponding import license from the jurisdiction it's going to. Yeah. A lot of the jurisdictions it's going to will not issue an import license because it's not needed.
What's Jersey got then?
Jersey's legislation is silent on that.
Right.
This is why for Bailiwick Botanicals, we send our CBD products to Jersey. And we move them around from Jersey because we can do that freely and easily. Yeah, okay. In Guernsey, we cannot. So this
that's separate to the MOU situation?
That's separate to the MOU, yeah. That's separate to the MOU, and that was put in place by the previous Health and Social Care Committee last term. Right, okay. There was somebody, one member that insisted on this clause being in our legislation, but it's completely ruined our industry. Completely.
Are there going to be plans to try and untangle that or pull that out?
Yeah, I think that will. There's quite a few changes that we need to make. For example, there's no age restrictions on CBD products in Guernsey.
No.
We can sell CBD products that contain
THC.
But,
yeah.
But, and we're, the gummies, are probably our most popular products.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping someone from standing outside of schools and selling them to children. It's absolute nonsense. These things need to be told. The industry doesn't do that. No. The industry itself regulates and does not sell to anyone below the age of 18, but that's the industry doing that.
But technically, if you wanted to, if someone unscrupulous wanted to come in and sell CBD gummies to children, they could.
Yeah.
So that needs to be fixed.
That needs to be fixed. That was something that when I brought it to the attention of politicians this term, they were shocked and horrified. But it was an oversight.
Yeah.
It's just what it really needed is what it needs now is people that know about cannabis, people that understand the industry, to be able to have some input in developing our legislation or changing our legislation to make it more equitable for the consumer, more fairer, more safer, and more business friendly.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Matt.
Awesome.
Cheers.
That was really... Thank you for listening to The Interview, a Bailiwick Express podcast. If you liked what you heard, please like and subscribe. You can find us on all social media channels, and if you'd like to keep up to date on all the work the Express team does, please sign up to our daily email by visiting gsy.bailiwickexpress.com.